Civil society organizations have expressed concern about the ongoing budget planning process, revealing that vital sectors such as health, education and agriculture will experience budget cuts due to the country's heavy burden. Now in studio with me is Julius Mukunda, the Executive Director of the Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group that has spearheaded this debate on the matter. Good afternoon, Julius.
Good afternoon. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too.
Yes.
So tell me, what are you folks' major concerns about the budget 2018-2019?
So many, but three most important ones. Number one, social sector funding has drastically reduced. To tell you, each and every referral hospital in Uganda will experience a cut. So it tells you in terms of service delivery, what's going to happen. Education sector, its budget has also reduced. Health has reduced. It's only agriculture whose budget has slightly increased to 900 billion.
So government will say, look, we are now reprioritizing. Here the president always talks about energy, infrastructure and all those different things. Bad, good?
Yes or no? No, in terms of that 900 billion to agriculture sector that is supporting 60% of the entire population. It's just a drop in the ocean. But we appreciate the increment. The second most important part, the second issue is that we are beginning to see government shifting votes from one sector to the other. And one of those votes that is going to be affected heavily is the Youth Livelihood Program, where it has not been shifted from Ministry of Gender. It has now gone to State House. In fact, from State House, the Ministry of Gender has remained with only 4 billion, and 132 billion has now gone to State House. Now, that wouldn't be a problem, but we understand our concerns are with the State House managing such kind of huge monies, because number one is that capacity of State House to deliver on these programs, when they have not prepared for them, is going to be a huge issue. The second issue is that anything within the State House has always been politicized, even when it is not actually. But anything within the State House has been politicized. And number three is that it is extremely very difficult to demand accountability from the State House. Extremely very difficult to demand accountability from the State House. But other institutions, it has been okay. So that's the second one. The third, which every Ugandan should worry about, is the debt. And let us not even begin to think, oh, we are between GDP, we are still below 50%.
Yeah, because government is saying that,
threshold.
look, our debt to GDP ratio is below 50%. 50% and above, that's now getting into the red zone. So it's below 50, and government says...
Yes, but I said at the end of the day, it is what gets onto the table. At the end of the day, it's what you are able to pay back. That's what matters. Because we know countries where their GDP, their debt to GDP ratio is almost more than 100%. And they are okay. Two major reasons why. One is, where they got the money from. This financial year, more than half of our entire budget is going to be, more than half of the extent, we're going to get loans of around 1.6 trillion Uganda shillings. But half of that is coming from non-consensual loans, which means that the interest rates are very high. And actually we are seeing an increase in non-concessional loans from 700 to 800, and yet a decrease in concessional loans. Concessional loans are those that have got long-term payment, a long grace period, and the interest rates are usually below 1%. So that's the number one. Number two is that you are seeing that the interest rate payment is actually now taking the second biggest share of our entire national budget. It has shifted from the third last year, now it is the second largest share of our entire budget. That is interest rate payment. So, telling me that we are below 50%, and I'm seeing so much money now going to service the loan. And that's why now we're having all these cuts from, for social sector. I begin to get worried. Even if we are 20% GDP ratio, and we're in this particular situation, I get worried because we have less to spend on our own. Okay. In fact,
finish that point.
In fact, 34 trillion we are talking about that the budget has increased. We have only 22 trillion to spend as a government. Only 22, that is 66%. The rest is on debt refinancing and interest rate payment.
Finally, on that point of debt, much of this debt is actually coming from China. Some have said, well, China is here to eat us up. Others have said, but China is our friend. You know, they are good people. They are giving us money to do the things that we need to do. What are you guys' thoughts as civil society organizations?
I think the Chinese, people have said actually the Chinese will take Victoria. But I think it's just an issue of saying that the way we are uptaking Chinese loans, they would likely take Lake Victoria. Already Chinese loan portfolio is still low, 6 trillion. It's not still much comparing to the portfolio that we have in terms of the loan. I mean, we have 41 trillion in terms of debt. So for Chinese, it's 6 trillion. But I think the challenge with the Chinese is that, one, the way we contract the loans, because for them, once you contract with them, that means we have to bring their company. And of course, most of the supplies come from China. So that's a very big problem. So there's no competitiveness. But also is that they likely misuse and accountability for Chinese loans. Whereas the World Bank, there is a whole huge process you go through to do the loan. The Chinese, the process actually not that much. So I think this is a scare that people are having. And already we are seeing that in Zambia, we are seeing in Sri Lanka, we are hearing discussions around Mombasa Port and Lamu Port. I mean, those are real. So you don't want those stories to be repeated here, in Uganda. Once you hear Uganda, what kind of resources do you have? Lake Victoria.
Well,
I mean,
let's pray and hope for the very best. Julius Mukunda, thank you for talking to us.
Thank you so much.
All right, let's take a quick break now, but NTV at 1 returns shortly. See you in a bit.